guys, this is Arpan Ghosh from Red Army Kolkata, and guess what we have today? Guess whom we have today? I cannot. My knees are still shaking. It's just that I'm standing. That is the reason. Otherwise, I would have fallen down. Today, I have with me Andy Mitten, the Andy Mitten. I do not think he needs any kind of introduction. I do not think anyone in this entire world, there is anybody who knows Manchester United and does not know Andy. Hi Andy, how are you doing? How are you doing, man?
I'm fine. It's great to join you. As I was saying before we started talking, I've been to India. I know United have got a huge support in India.
Yes.
I've been to Mumbai. I've been to Bangalore, to Goa, to Porbandar, and there's lots of other places I'd like to visit in India. I would have been coming to India this summer on the pre-season tour because United were about to play there. And unfortunately, it got cancelled. And then last week, an Indian TV station called me. Sony, yeah. So I did that with a friend of mine, Ashley Westwood. So
yes, I saw that, and I used to work for one of their biggest rivals, Sony. But So I watched the show. It was amazing, and I didn't know that you came to India when Ashley Westwood was managing Bengaluru. I would like to ask you about your experience in India. What are the things that really swept you off your feet?
Well, I know Nash from Manchester, and I knew he was doing well. Can you excuse me for 1 minute? My wife's
yes, absolutely.
That's all it'll be.
Absolutely. It's just me staring at his books. Wow. And so I'll take this moment to just say a few things to our viewers. To all of you who are watching this, please drop a subscribe to the channel. Yeah. You don't need to.
So I knew Ash was doing well, and I've written for 442 magazine for a long time, and I always look for interesting stories, and a guy from Manchester, top of the league in India, seemed like an interesting story to me. So I flew to Bangalore. I spent a lot of time with Ash. He let me in his dressing room. I learned all about Indian football, the two different leagues. I met lots of people. I was really impressed by the fans, by the passion of the fans, by the support of the big English clubs in India. And then I wrote a big piece about it, and then some people who I know went to play in India. Wes Brown, Dimitar Berbatov, Diego Forlan. So I was speaking to Diego, for example, every week when he was playing in India, and it's interesting. I'd love to go to the north of the country. I've read a lot about India, and I've been there, and I've enjoyed it when I've been there. So it's a part of the world which interests me, and hopefully I'll be coming back. Hopefully with Manchester United. I've never been to Calcutta. Read about it, know all about the rivalry there between the two big clubs. Know about the huge stadium. As I understand, the stadium's been rebuilt and it's much more modern now. What were my impressions of India? An obsession with cricket. When I was in Mumbai, I walked across the Oval and was just watching 50 games going on, and I was invited to play in one, and I was, some 12-year-old kid bowled me out straight away. So yeah, it was. It's always been a place which has interested me.
Absolutely, and since you mentioned about the local rivalry in India, Mohun Bagan versus East Bengal, and I would like to tell you that both of you mentioned that there are two leagues, the ISL and the I League, and I'd like to let you know that Mohun Bagan has joined ISL, and so is East Bengal. They're in the process. They would join in a couple of months. So now ISL is going to become the first the most premier league, ISL, and then I League would become the second division of Indian football, second tier of Indian football.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. A friend of mine texted me yesterday. He's just got the job as manager's Hyderabad. Is that right?
Hyderabad.
Yeah.
Hyderabad.
So a friend of mine from Spain is going to go to manage there. Manolo Marquez.
Yeah.
So he's going to go there. So maybe I'll come out and see him out there because he's a good friend of mine. But it's interesting. And given what's the population of India? 1 billion people.
138 crores. So I do not know about like 1 billion. 1.38 billion.
Really, I know it's a cricket mad place, but you really should be higher up the world rankings than where you are.
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying our best. We're trying our best. Now, I'd like to tell you that contrary to the popular beliefs, if you come to Calcutta is all about football.
Okay.
Calcutta has a huge following for cricket. That is there, but that is after Saurav Ganguly became the captain of Indian cricket team. And before that, and even now, if you come to Calcutta is all about football. If you like, the games get sold out. Just now I mentioned that. Just now you also said that about this rivalry between Mohun Bagan and East Bengal, and we are used to seeing like more than 110,000 people in that stadium. Now that is the amount of people that derby brings in. And it is a huge deal. It is the city gets divided into, much like the Manchester Derby. Mohun Bagan and East Bengal divides the city into. You must be aware of the rich heritage of the Derby. So I would like to, like, personally, if you ever come down to Calcutta, I would like to invite you to one of the derbies, because Manchester United were going to come to India for their pre-season tour, and that there would have been one match against East Bengal, and as you know, East Bengal is like one of the biggest clubs in India. And like, it would be amazing. It would be you. So like, on this line, Andy, what is the maddest derby that you have seen?
The biggest security operation was in Holland between Ajax and Feyenoord. There'd been a lot of trouble. An Ajax fan had been killed. It was heavy. The one which surprised me a lot was in Israel. The strength of the songs between the two Israeli teams really surprised me. The only game I went to when I wrote that book where the fans didn't say bad things about each other was in the Faroe Islands. And one of them just said, look, there's so few of us, we can't afford to fall out with each other. I think in the north of England and Scotland, I mean, Glasgow is very sectarian. In Belfast, there's a very interesting derby there as well, between Linfield and Cliftonville, and there's another one there with Glentoran. But in the north of England, United City, Liverpool, Everton, United Liverpool, I know people say it's not a cross-city derby, but I actually researched the word derby. It doesn't necessarily mean a geographic cross-city thing that it's become to be known as. Newcastle Sunderland is a huge game. Barcelona Madrid is El Derby. The Basque Country, probably the most intense one in Spain, is in Seville. Argentina is an incredible place to watch football. The stadiums shake with passion, and I love watching football in South America, and I've been fortunate to travel a lot. So I've written a lot about football culture over the years. I like to watch football of all different standards. Until COVID, I was going to 85, 90 games per season, usually in about 15 different countries each year. And I'm interested in fan culture. I write, stories that interest me. Last year I went to see Maradona in Sinaloa in Mexico, which people...
Yes.
That's a byword for, like, drugs gangs. But that made it interesting to me. I went in with Lazio's ultras just after their leader had been shot dead in Rome. And normally journalists are not allowed that access. But my background's a bit different through doing United We Stand. People in those type of groups would probably trust me a little bit more. But Man United is. I'm from Manchester. Grew up going to to the games, or my family played football, and United's always been my first love. So even when I'm sent to some of these huge games, I'm not really bothered about the results. When I came to Bangalore, I really wanted Ash to win because I knew it meant a lot to him. But I can be watching Barca Madrid and I just want the best team to win. But if I'm watching United, I've got to be objective in my writing, but I know how my heart feels. And well, there's been quite a lot of pain in the last few years being a United fan. But over the years, when I was growing up, I never thought I would see Manchester United win the league title once, because Liverpool was so dominant. And I grew up in a place 2 or 3 miles from Old Trafford. You could hear Old Trafford. I delivered newspapers as a young boy, and I could hear the roar of Old Trafford when I was like 13 and not at the game. And soon after, I started getting the bus to Old Trafford, and it was really accessible. It was cheap. You could pay with your pocket money to stand on the Stretford end. The atmosphere was amazing. It was full of songs, and I was fascinated by it. This green pitch in the middle of an industrial estate, and the crowds which swayed around. I mean, looking back, it was probably dangerous. The pitch was terrible. It wasn't as green as I remembered it, because it was just a terrible pitch. Most of the English pitches were in the 1980s. But United got better and better, and when I was 15, I started United We Stand, the fanzine. We stood outside Old Trafford. We started selling it in the wind and the rain, and United fans started buying it, and they liked it. And I never for 1 minute thought it would lead to anything. But by the time I was 18, it was selling a lot of copies. I did a degree in journalism, and I was watching United pretty much everywhere. And all these years later, we've done United We Stand for a long time. I mean, I make my main living as a journalist, a football journalist, but I've been fortunate to see United in, I think, 42 or 43 countries. And India was going to be another one, because while I've been there, I've never seen United play there. And I've seen so many riches following United that have been completely spoiled. I never thought the team would be champions of England, let alone Europe and the world. I've seen some great players and been fortunate to interview most of them and got to know some of them very, very well. And to call it a job is a privilege. We still do United We Stand. We do the United We Stand podcast, and we get guests on that and follow the team through all the highs and the lows. And in every season, there's highs and lows. In the last 7 years, since Sir Alex stepped aside, there's been a lot of lows. United haven't come close to winning the league, which isn't really where a club of United's standing should be. It's one of the 3 biggest clubs in the world, along with Barcelona and Madrid. But football's changing, the ownership's changing. When Ferguson was so dominant, he only really had Arsenal to worry about. Liverpool didn't get the house in order. Chelsea were not owned by Abramovich. City were not owned by Abu Dhabi. So it's changing a lot, but just because it changes doesn't make it uninteresting. United are really interesting, even sometimes more interesting when the team are not so strong. And you get these incredible highs, even in the last season, playing brilliantly away in the Manchester derby. And I was sat in a neutral section, and I've got to keep the emotion in, but you feel like exploding. And then 2 weeks later, going to Watford and thinking, going to be an easy win here, and United losing to a team that had won one of their 17 league games. So I think the team's got some way to go. I do think that there has been improvements. I am backing Ole Gunnar. I think he's got a tough job, but I think he's doing a good job. I think the team needs strengthening again this summer, and the manager wants players to come in, top players, not just fillers, players that are going to improve United's first 11. But it's difficult. COVID's changed football. Every home game is worth around £4 million to Manchester United. Now it's nothing because no one's going into the games. Hopefully that will change sooner. And then the club had to pay back money to the broadcasters. There's uncertainty globally, not just in sport but in life. And much of United's success in recent years has been financial through the commercial deals and the sponsors. And I remember being in India, and I saw something in India, in Goa, where it was a light bulb moment with Manchester United, because for years I knew United were hugely popular in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, in Malaysia. I'd been to all these places. I'd been to the Far East and seen United support in Hong Kong, but the club couldn't monetize that support. They tried selling the official magazine, but there were rip-off copies of it almost straight away. The shirts which were bought were counterfeit shirts. And I remember being in India 2019, United were champions of England, Europe and the world. Oh, those were the days. And seeing a big advertising hoarding selling a brand of Indian vodka using Manchester United's players as like the tool to sell them. And I just thought, that's how they do it. Don't take the money from the consumer, take the money from the companies, from the sponsors. Let them use the images of Ryan Giggs or Vidic or Ronaldo who had just left. And that's what United have done really successfully. You pay us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 million, whatever, and we'll be your official partners. And everyone's copied Manchester United doing that. I think commercially the success has been very well documented. It's just a shame that we're not seeing more of the success on the pitch. And I felt last season was improving, but pre semi-finals didn't feel like United were close to winning any of those trophies, if I'm honest. To finish third, I suppose, would be a success, given United weren't close to the top four for much of the season and were never going to win the league. So to get back in the Champions League, definitely a good thing. And probably the Europa League was better for United's young squad last year, but the money's in the Champions League and the top teams are there. And I'd be sent to games, I was at Madrid, Man City, and you're thinking, this is where it's at. It's not at Man United Bruges, but I'd be in Bruges as well because I'm following my team. And I think United are moving in the right direction, but there's still very, very uncertain times. Today I'm just reading negative headlines about COVID, and you want the fans to be back in the stadium. We need the fans in the stadium for many reasons, for atmosphere. The players need the support, and even doing our fanzine, we sell it outside the ground. If there's no one there, we've got nobody to sell it to. But we've carried on, we've battled on, and hopefully, I'd like to say there is some light at the end of the tunnel, but I think it's still a problematic time.
Wow, that is hearing you speak about Manchester United it's a real deal. And you mentioned that we reached 3 semi-finals, but we didn't look like winning any of them. But there was one semi-final, there was one final where we really looked like winning, and we actually won. And I believe you were there during that match in the 1999 treble. How was the experience, Andy?
It was going to those games in the 90s. So if you wind back to the start of the 90s, English clubs were banned from Europe because of hooliganism. So we had that first European trips, and I was 17 years old, so it was really exciting in the Cup Winners' Cup to be in Rotterdam when the team won there. It was amazing. Everybody singing in the rain, and just such an exciting time. Rotterdam and Amsterdam were great cities. And then by 93, United started playing in the European Cup for the first time since 68. And gradually, and there were a lot of bumps along the way, got better and better. So when I first saw United playing Turin in 96, they were completely battered. But by 99, United went there. That's still my favourite game, the semi-final against Juventus in 99. 1-1 from the home leg, and United were 2-0 down in Turin and won 3-2 to reach Barcelona for the final. And then we were travelling around Europe. So, I mean, imagine doing that with your friends, watching some of the best football teams in the world. For me, I was watching a group of lads who were the same age as me, from the same city as me, and I knew many of them. I knew them from when they were 13 years old. I'd played against them, and they're beating the best teams in the world. That final in Barcelona, well, But Barcelona is the most incredible city, and the stadium held 98,000. So you had this huge body of United fans, over 50,000, and a lot of Bayern fans because they're a massive club as well. And the game wasn't great in Barcelona, but the ending certainly was. And to be there, it's like a life-affirming moment. I was there with my father. My father passed away 2 years ago, and if you asked me to look back at the great moments with my dad, that would be one of them. Although he was still moaning, he was never happy. But I'd say, Dad, we've just won the treble. Yeah, but we didn't play well. But Dad, it doesn't matter. We've won the treble. Yeah, but we didn't turn up. We let ourselves down. How can we let ourselves down? We've just won the treble. Yeah, but Bayern were the better team and he didn't have a good game. But we've just won the treble. It's never going to happen again. So it's all this sort of irrationality which makes being a fan. But there's also stages of life. So when I was going to the European away games in the mid-90s, there would be 40 or 50 of my close friends there. And I knew that these numbers would only ever decrease because people would get married, they'd stop going to games every week for many reasons. They'd have more responsibilities. You know, if you've got children, it's very difficult to say, right, I'm just going to Moscow for 3 days. I've got this great excuse. I hope my wife's not listening, but it is also my job, and I'm very lucky, and I work hard and to do my job and to do it well and to get good sources, and I've done it for a long time, so I've been able to do that and to travel to all of these places. But I'd see my friends in these European cities and they'd say, come on, let's go in this bar and have some drinks. I said, I can't, I've got to work. What you do is not work, you just watch football. Yeah, but I've got to work, it's my job.
Wow,
I'm going to drink 7 pints of beer with you just because we're in a nice European city. But yeah, I mean, seeing United playing the most amazing places, and it isn't just about the game. Even this year, United played in Bruges and Cologne as well, but although fans weren't allowed there. But Bruges is a wonderful place, so you go to these European aways for a day, 2, 3 days, and you could have a good time. And the game's what brings you together, but you can be in the bars and everyone's singing and having a good time, and you start to know people. It becomes a community. You start to know who all the regular people are, and it's a good and a bad thing. It's usually a good thing. Not at 2 o'clock in the morning in Bruges when people are coming up to you and saying, you wrote that, I didn't agree with that. What did you mean when you wrote that? Who are we signing? You must know. Oh, come on, I just want to drink with my mate. Yeah, but you must know. And then the next day, sorry, I'd had a few drinks last night. But I think it's well intentioned, and we need to be part of that community. We do the fanzine, we do the podcast, we go to all the games, and we reflect that culture, because now the people who go to games are in a minority. United's global support is the majority now, and it's difficult to get tickets to go to away games. So if we can reflect that culture of what it's like being among the 3,000 fans in the away end at Liverpool, people tend to enjoy that, and we get people listening to our podcast from around the world, and it leads me back to saying we need fans back inside the stadiums. And I sense a lot of people in football, they're just saying, yeah, it'd be good when fans can come back, but they're not really that bothered. They're just not, as long as the other parts of the football machine are working. But I am bothered, and I asked Andy Herrera, I was in Lisbon for work, and I asked him after the game, what is football like without fans? And he swore. He gave me the most amazing response, and it went completely viral.
Yeah, it did.
And I like that passion. I like it when a footballer feels that passion, because fans are important. I wouldn't say football is nothing without fans, because it's not. It's still a game, but I've been at a lot of these games and it just isn't the same. I was lucky enough to be at the European Cup final 2 weeks ago, and it was awful. And I know why the games are being played. I understand the reasons. I know that COVID is a very serious issue, but the sooner fans can get back in, they'll back the back.
Wow. So football, being a fan, and so there are like two sides to what you do. When you watch a match, you are a fan, and then you're a journalist at the same time. You have to maintain that middle ground. How difficult it is to be a fan and to be a journalist, how difficult it is to maintain that middle ground.
I have to do it because you're not going to be taken seriously if you don't. So if I'm sent to Liverpool or to cover a game with Manchester City, I find that I can do it. I just have to do it. And I've done it for so long that if I'm writing about the fan culture, I would have people in Liverpool's fan base who would trust me enough to give me the time of day, and Liverpool Football Club as well. And I'll be honest with them. I'll say, look, I hope Liverpool lose every single game they play, or Manchester City. But I'm not going to deny, if I'm watching a great performance, that it's a great performance. I'm not going to pretend that Van Dijk is not an incredible defender when he is, because you just look stupid. So I can write about other clubs. I can just do it. The pain tends to come when United lose. That's when it hurts. Like I let myself get emotionally involved. So even last year, Barca, Man United, and I've been to so many Barca games, covered them for work, but I don't feel anything. Even on watching what has often been the best football in the world, I just don't feel it in my heart. And United went to Camp Nou, and you know they're the underdogs. You know Barca are the clear favourites, and you know all that. But for the first 9 minutes, you're watching United playing really, really well, and you start to believe. You just do. And you're like, go on, but you can't. If I'm in the press box like I was that night,
no, you can't.
You can't. And then bang, Barca go ahead. And then you just slump back. Right, okay, I'm here to do a job. Where were we? Right, Manchester United lost. So I don't think what I do is normal in the press box. I think there are some journalists, or most journalists, who would hide the club that they support. But for me, why should I? I've never hidden it. I think I've been fair. I think I've got a fair reputation with fans of other clubs. I wouldn't expect to be a favourite of any Manchester City or Liverpool fans, but the sensible ones, and not the extreme ones, I think they would say that I am fair. And I still love watching the team, however bad they are. But you've got to do your job properly. You've got to cover it properly. And as a journalist, you've got to ask the right questions. So in October, we were really concerned about the way Manchester United were going. So I said to Ed Woodward, you should do an interview with us, because my readers are extremely concerned with Manchester United. And he agreed to it. And I put tough questions to him. And I had 90 minutes with him. And if I interviewed him again tomorrow, I'd ask him exactly the same questions, and I'd look him in the eye. And our readers appreciated that. We got some criticism of people just for interviewing him. I'm like, well, do you only want me to interview people who you like? Because that's really dangerous for journalism. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I might not always be able to give you the news that you want to hear. But my job as a journalist is to ask difficult questions, and to do my job properly and to find out answers. And we got a lot of answers there. And I believed some of them, and with others I was more circumspect. We did a big interview with Ollie during the lockdown, gave us good time, and he would know that our readers tend to be the hardcore fans who are going everywhere. But then I've just seen the mailing list today. We've got several orders in India. I don't know how the Indian postal system is at the moment with COVID, but we are posting them. And Ollie was good with us because we're coming at things from a slightly different angle. We're not a newspaper. He's known me for a long time. He maybe trusts me. You have to work hard to build that trust up. That you're going to ask difficult questions, but you're going to give people a fair hearing. And that's what I try and do. I work really hard. I travel a lot. I don't hide my identity. I go to a lot of games. I build up a lot of contacts. I often don't write what I know, because contact might ask you not to. But it helps shape your writing. So if you know that United are not interested in a certain player, you don't write what you don't know. If that makes sense. So every day, there's a demand for Manchester United stuff and other stuff as well. I don't just do United. As I said earlier, some of the most enjoyable pieces I've done were going to see Maradona in Mexico, in Sinaloa, where everyone says don't go to Sinaloa. It's the most dangerous city on earth. It's where
and you were uninvited. That was like without an appointment.
Yeah, it was. I was uninvited, which is not normal. But that was it wasn't my idea, that trip. But that was an editor who likes the way I do my journalism, saying, "Go and get your hands dirty. I'm sending a photographer with you, a war photographer from the New York Times." And if I applied common sense, yes, I'd seen the headlines about Sinaloa, but I also thought, they're not just going to shoot me as I come out of the airport, because I'm not a drug dealer. I'm not part of their world. It is a city of 100,000 people. I'm going to take precautions, and I was fine. And the word Manchester was actually really helpful there, because when we got to the stadium, word spread that journalists come from Manchester, and Maradona got to hear about it, and I spoke to his president and ended up speaking to his wife. And I think as a journalist, you've got to have people skills. You've got to be able to get on with people, to get the story, and that's what I did there. And it was nothing to do with Man United. However, when it finished, he walked away, and Maradona struggles to walk, and he walked back and he went, "You're Manchester United," he said. They're not impressing me. They're more obsessed about making money than winning matches, and they need a manager, and I am that manager. And I just thought, these quotes are going to go around the world. Maradona, I will be Man United manager, and they did. But it cost a lot of money to send me there and the photographer there, so someone's got to pay for that journalism. So that was for 442 magazine. People buy it. But there's a more serious point in it. Journalism has to be paid for, and journalists need to be paid as well. So if I'm going to somewhere like Bangalore, I need people to buy my work. I can't just give it away for free. And they're quite challenging times for journalism, and there's all different types of journalism. When I was in Lisbon, I was doing television journalism, and that was, as the players left the pitch, I would interview them, and people have paid to subscribe to that channel because they've got the rights, and I'm sure it's similar in India. So there's different ways of how it all works out. But on a sort of micro level, we produce United We Stand and we need people to buy it. I could easily be doing a Twitter account where I just pump out the work of everybody else. But to do original stuff, to get original stories, it takes so much time for someone to trust you. I mean, someone rang me last night, former player, and said, "Andy, I'm hearing United are trying to sign this defender. And I thought you might know about it." And I didn't know about it. I know that United were interested in the defender 3 years ago, but I know someone who knows the defender and the defender's agent, so I had to call him and say, "Have you heard anything here?" And he said, "No, I've not." So there's a lot of background goes in. And there's another problem now with transfers. A lot of people are addicted to transfers, and they want definite information yesterday. And transfers do not work like that. And so I can remember a very good contact of mine telling me 5 years ago, Man United are signing Daley Blind from Ajax. And I trusted the contact, and I wrote it quite softly. Sources in Holland are convinced that Daley Blind's going to join Man United, and obviously it went online and it goes big. And that was on the Monday. By the Wednesday, Blind's agent went on radio in England and said, "No, don't know what you're on about. There's been no talks from Man United." And I got lots of abuse. And on the Saturday, he joined Man United. Not one of the people who abused me apologised. Well, recently, I was travelling back from the Europa League, and a young lad I know in Macedonia, nice lad, he tweeted me and said, this outlet is reporting that we've signed this player, Stefanovic from Partizan Belgrade. It's a done deal. So I checked it out. Man United said no. Someone else at Man United, no. Spoke to a journalist in Belgrade, no. Spoke to a player in Belgrade, no. So I've got 5 sources there that we've not signed it today. So I replied to the guy and said, I've checked it out and it's not true. Because that's not what people want to hear. I got 7 hours of abuse. Oh, it is true. It is true. And I got a lot of abuse from India actually as well. I should say that, because that's true. But I was correct, because he didn't sign on the 14th of August, and he hasn't signed. And not one of the people who abused me has said, I'm sorry there. And instead they were writing like, Mitten knows nothing, talking out of his ass, and I'm only doing my job properly. I'm not guessing. I'm speaking to contacts I've built up for such a long period of time, and I was correct. There was no deal. And what you have now, and you've probably all had it, but it's more pronounced now, is agents link their players to Man United. Doesn't no harm. Yeah, my player's so good that even Man United are interested. And the club are never going to deny that, because the minute they start denying it, when they don't deny, everybody will go, so this must be true. So what do Man United do? They can't put a statement out every single day when 5 different players are being linked, saying not true, not true, not true. Because the truth is, right now, there's probably 20 players on United's radar for this very transfer window. And how many of them are going to come? 1, 2, 3, none? And there's so many different factors. And sometimes I get stuff and I just hold it back. It's not worth the abuse where people want to be told stuff that they agree with. And one of the guys who were giving me abuse did actually come back to me and said, yeah, I knew it wouldn't be true, but it just sounded good and made me feel good. And I'm like, well, so do you want me to tell you lies then? Is that what you want? Because that is really dangerous for journalism as well. And you have cases in this transfer window, Jimenez for Wolves. There's nothing in it, and suddenly it's trending in Man United Jimenez, and United fans are discussing it. I do a good job for us. My job is to find out, is there any truth there? And there's not. And if you're the person who says, I understand there's nothing in this, because you're telling people the truth, but something that they don't want to hear. What do you know? You're talking rubbish. Well, what do I know is that, I've done my job as a journalist to try and find out that actually it's factually incorrect. So these are all parts of my job. I love the feature writing, the in-depth stuff. But, I can go to Belgrade and go undercover with the Ultras, and that might take me 5 months to set up. And yet I can also write a story in 10 minutes because I've spoke to someone in Madrid saying David De Gea wants to leave the club. And this is an example from 2015, and it gets 10 times as many hits. And that's pretty depressing that, some people want quality, some people just want transfer information. And there is more to football than transfers. There is. I love it when United sign a great player. Ask me now, on the 8th of September 2020, would I like to see Sancho join the club? 100%. I'd love it if that happened. Do I know that it's going to happen? No, I don't. There's all sorts of probabilities and understandings. But you can't lie and say something is a done deal if it's not a done deal.
Yeah, so one thing about transfers is that people want to see new blood coming in, and with the way we have been handling the transfers, I think I'm pretty impressed with Ole, if you ask me. I am pretty impressed with Ole. The way he has actually cleared the clutter, like the players who were not really Man United material, and Ole has, in a way, made them understand that, and then it is good for the club and for the players themselves. What do you think about the way Ole is managing the players? What is what is your opinion on that?
I agree with you. I think he's doing a good job. I think he's a good judge of players. Look at the players he's brought in. I don't think there's been any players you could call a flop there. The best is Bruno. And, we've not been able to say that a lot in the last 7 years. I mean, Fergie had some bad signings as well. Signing footballers is not an exact science. But Ole's doing well. And I think he needs to be backed. I think he needs to be given support. And I know that when he identifies a player and movements start for him to sign the player, he does lots of background checks. He makes lots of phone calls because he doesn't want it on his head if someone is a failure. And I spoke to him in March and he said, I need 2 or 3 players here, top players, to make United capable of challenging again. And I think I'd agree with that. Now you've got to get him those players. That's the hard bit. And I used a line last week saying, when you extract diamonds, it's difficult. And it is. It's difficult to get Jadon Sancho out of Dortmund. They don't need the money. They want too much money. And there's financial instability. And some fans just don't want to hear that. No, you break the bank. But, okay, if you're Chelsea and you're owned by an oligarch, or you're Manchester City, you can do that. But United aren't. And United are owned by the Glazer family, who take money out of the club rather than put money into the club. And when I was around a lot when that takeover went through, it wasn't popular at all, and I don't think they'll ever be popular. But I do think that United have spent a lot of money in the last few years. Just spent it badly in a lot of cases. So the recruitment needed to improve, and I think it is improving. I think we're seeing clear evidence of that. But there needs to be at least one top player this summer to continue that improvement, and then add in the fact that you'd expect the young players to get better, because United have got the youngest team in the Premier League. It's great that Mason Greenwood and Brandon Williams have come through. You would assume that Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial are going to get better. You would assume that Bruno is going to get even better. And Pogba staying is probably a positive thing if he stays, which he probably will do. So there's lots of positives, but then there needs to be, because Liverpool finished 30 odd points ahead of Manchester United.
Yeah, that is very depressing. I respect Liverpool. I love the way they play, and as a journalist, it is my, as you said, I cannot say that Virgil van Dijk is a bad defender. He is great. He is great at what he does. But United finishing 30 odd points apart from Liverpool, I think that is a bit depressing. That is really depressing. So I think that way we have improved a lot from the team that we were even during the start of the season. We started off really bright, but then again we had a kind of a sleep off. But then ever since Bruno has come in, what exactly? Now this is a question that I do not think that has a very scientific answer. I do not know if there is, but there is something about Bruno that really adds to the spark, that really adds to the flair. But he's not one of the guys who is like showing off trickeries like Paul Pogba does or Ronaldo does. He's not taking on 5-6 players on his own, but he's doing something that is making it all happen. What exactly Bruno does? What do you think? You've seen him up close and personal. What is your point on that?
Well, he's a great player, and great players lift other players. And when he came in immediately into training, the other players took notice and thought, we've got to raise our game here. So he had a transformative effect on the other players. It helps that he's a good guy, that he speaks good English. He wanted to improve Manchester United. And from the first few minutes of his debut against Wolves, he showed an attacking intent which hadn't been there in a lot of games earlier on in the season. And as you said, last season, a great opening day win against Chelsea, but after 14 matches, United had won 4. That's nowhere near good enough. The team were inconsistent. The fans were growing very frustrated, and Bruno was needed. He's needed because he's brilliant. He's needed because there were injuries, and he improved the team in so many ways. So Harry Maguire, for someone like him, he should be more effective at set pieces than he was until Bruno arrived. In one of his first games at Chelsea away, there was a corner, bang, Maguire goal, brilliant. And then that lifts confidence. A winning team becomes more confident, and Bruno's the real deal. I think people can see that. And then Paul Pogba comes back and he thinks, well, okay, I might not be the main man anymore. I better raise my game. And at the very end of the season, I think United looked a little bit tired. So even Bruno's human. But I think after a short rest, I'm pretty optimistic about next season. But I still think more signings are needed. And also, you've got to shift out some players as well, which is difficult. If you've got a player on £100,000 a week, and the best offer for him is someone offering £24,000 a week, there's a huge difference there. And United have struggled with that because they've recruited pretty poorly. So then be in a position to offload players who've not really been playing or contributing enough is difficult. And we could probably name 5 players now who none of us would complain about if they left Manchester United. I think United did well to get rid of Sanchez, and that turned out to be a terrible signing. But I can remember the excitement when he did sign, and I was among people who thought that he was a good signing. So it's simple, and yet it's also complex. Bruno, good player, improves team, he's been underperforming. It sounds so simple, but I do think he's a real deal. He's played abroad before, not just come out of Portugal, and I'm really looking forward to watching him play next season, because in May 18 we did a front cover of United We Stand, and it just said no more heroes anymore, and that was a terrible end to the season. And I think you're starting to see some heroes now. Marcus Rashford, in part because of what he does on the pitch, but also from what he does off it, and Bruno. And it's about time, because the last few seasons had ended really badly, and even this season didn't end great, and to go a season without winning a trophy isn't great either. But I'm seeing green shoots of recovery, and I'm pretty optimistic, but I still think it'll be very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are some things we can improve, although we have signed Donny van de Beek.
Yeah.
Now we have what I call a very good midfield, but we are still getting linked to Thiago Alcantara. Can you help me simplify this entire situation? Because what formation do you see Ole playing going into the next season?
Probable 4-2-3-1. I think that's his preferred one. But I asked him about this, and he said he wanted to be flexible. If he wanted to go free at the back, then he would do. United went free at the back against Chelsea away and beat them. Really effective. Luke Shaw playing on the left side of the 3. So the more better players he has, the more options he has. And I think it really concerned him when he gave fringe players a start in the FA Cup games against Norwich and Chelsea in the semi-final, and United were very unimpressive. That's why he wants to strengthen. So I would say 4-2-3-1 would be his default, with Anthony Rashford up top, Mason Greenwood or Sancho or whoever on the right. And if you're going to play 60 games, you can't just be playing the same players all the time. I think Andreas Pereira played 40 matches last season. It's too many. Jesse Lingard featured in 40 games. It's too many. All of the players would have liked to say they played in 50 matches. And I think you're holding 2 in front of the defenders. The defence has been pretty settled. Nemanja Matic was a nowhere man at the start of last season, then came really good in January. Fred, pretty similar. McTominay, who's done well to come through, and then you've got further forward in theory, you've got Pogba, you've got Bruno as well, and now you've got Donny. I'd watched Donny live once in a great game in the Bernabeu for Ajax, but I'm not an expert on Donny, so I spoke to people about him. I spoke last week to Stephen Pienaar, who was a coach at Ajax, played in the Premier League, and he compared him to Frank Lampard and said he'll get goals, and he thought it was a very good signing. So I think every signing tends to be good. You're never going to hear people go, this is a completely terrible signing. But his stock is good. I'm pretty optimistic about him. Is he Sancho class? Probably not. That's why he cost 35 million and not 120 million. But I welcome it, and I think all United fans did. And it was done quickly and efficiently. I think United fans just want to see a little bit more of that, and I understand why.
Yeah, and see that says all about it, because Donny van de Beek is. I've watched some matches, and even I have no clue about him. But what I understand from the way he plays is he's a pretty good player, and I would be really excited to see him wearing. And I think he has high regards. Edwin van der Sar held him in high regards, so I would trust van der Sar any day. And yeah, that is. Now, we have been speaking about these things for a long time, but there is one thing that I want to know from you. You come from a your family comes from a footballing background. Charlie Mitten, yeah, and he served during the World War. He played for Manchester United. Now, I really think that our viewers want to know a bit more about him from your point of view.
All right. Well, you've reminded me of something there, because my whole family play football, and Charlie, who was my great uncle, was the most famous.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie was born in Rangoon because my great grandfather was in the British Army, so that's modern day Burma.
Yeah.
My grandfather was born in India.
Oh.
And because he was and he was also a professional football player. So on his passport, he had Bombay.
Oh, wow.
As his birthplace. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. So
that's amazing. You are like a half Indian citizen.
I mean, people look at me and say, "You look like you're from Rajasthan." You know, I'm part Indian.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So Grandad was born there, and when he travelled for the whole of his life, passport inspectors would look and look again. Yeah, it's because my great grandfather was in the British Army. So the family all play. My brothers played at different levels. One of my brothers was the first player to sign for FC United, the breakaway club. He was a centre forward, and he had a very successful semi-professional career on a diet of cigarettes and alcohol, and fans loved him. And that's how it is in my family. It's my cousin Paul was a young professional at United. My uncle John was a professional. My uncle Charlie was professional. They played for Coventry City, Leicester City, Plymouth Argyle, Yeovil Town. So yeah, I'm like the failure, because I'm one of the very few who didn't receive money to play football. But I'm still playing. 46 and still playing veterans football, but it wasn't as good as the other people in my family. Charlie was a big star who was one of the first British players to move abroad. He went to Colombia in 1950.
Yeah.
He was a penalty king. He was earning £10 a week at Old Trafford, and he got offered £100 to go to play in South America.
The Bogota band.
Yeah, the Bogota band. I think he was a truly great player, a real star. And it showed he also managed Newcastle United, and he was a real character. I used to go and see him at his house in Old Trafford. I mean, you'd never get footballers living in Old Trafford now. It's quite a working class area, and I go and see him, and he's telling me these amazing stories all the time about playing for United. And I was just enraptured by it all, completely in love with these stories. I'd always been a United fan. The whole family's United, apart from my sister has married a City fan, and their offspring are little City fans. They've got season tickets at City. And I think
that's a let off.
Maybe that's God's way of going, you've had this too easy, you, in this red. I'm going to throw a little bit of blue into your family as well. But, you know, they love their club. They joke to me, they wind me up all the time. Mm-hmm. But I'm pleased that in the last year, I've been able to wind them up and say, 4 Manchester derbies last year, yeah? He won 3 of them. Shut up, Uncle Andy. So, Manchester's a huge football city. I'm sure anyone who's managed to visit would know that. You feel it among the people, and I really like that about Manchester. My mum won't ever go to games, but she knows what's going on there, and there's a real passion there. And my family moved to Manchester because of football, because Charlie, who lived on the Indian subcontinent, who lived in Scotland, was scouted by Manchester United. So football took my family to Manchester, and they all ended up playing football in Manchester and then moving away from Manchester at times to play football. And I'm pretty proud of the family's football history.
Wow, this is something I partly read about. That is the reason I wanted to know more about it from you. So Andy Mitten is partly Indian, Rajasthani, and
Rajasthan. I've heard Rajasthan's beautiful. Is that right?
It is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. The sculpture, the entire architecture, the heritage of that place. It's amazing. It's beautiful. I think you'd fit in right there, just like you. You just visit the place and you'd fall in love with it. And the people who who follow Manchester United, I think I know a few of them who are watching this show right now, Puneet. And just ping Andy Mitten and ask him to come to Rajasthan, give him a fort, make him the king.
No, I'd love to go, and my favourite food is what we in the UK call Indian food. But when I went to Bangalore and tried to order the Indian food we have in England, Ashley Westwood just started laughing at me. So my favourite dish is chicken madras. And Ash said, this doesn't exist in India. So you can see how they've anglicised the Indian cuisine, but I like the spicy foods. And, I've read a lot about India. I was reading a big article last week about the Ganges River. It's very, very interesting. Like to read more about it and know more about it. It's such a vast country. And
these.
Yeah, no, it's decent.
If you want to travel India, it will take you, because there are so many different cultures. Because if you go to the north, there is a different culture. People from Kashmir, they're different from the people in the south. They have a different culture. People in the east, the Bengal and these states, they're different from the people in Rajasthan, which is in the west.
Yeah.
And Madras, Bombay chicken. So Madras is Bombay basically.
Yeah.
So it's like the divine intervention that you would like chicken madras. Brilliant, yeah. When you come down to India, I'm sure that you would have people to help you out. But I think it would be great if you take your time to travel the entire country. And football is heritage. If you've been to Goa, you know the foot. Goa is like a great place for football. And there are so many new places coming up. Bengaluru was not famous for football, but now if you look at them, they're doing great. Historically, Bengal has been one of the spearheads of Indian football.
I know.
Yeah. So if you remember, come down. You'll have one guide at least if you allow a bit of footballing knowledge from here. And it's amazing to just find out that you have some connections with India, Andy. I cannot get that out of my head now. I need to stop. I need to stop. Yeah. And now that I know about Charlie, there is one more thing that I want to ask you. I know I've been hogging you for a long time now, but there's just one more thing that I want to ask you. The first treble season, 98-99 and 2008-9. Both of the times we won, and there was a certain difference in both the teams. One played. I would like to hear it from you, from your mouth. Though I don't want to talk about it. I want to hear it from you. What difference did you see, and what is the team? Do you think that Manchester United? What team would it take for Manchester United to win that treble again? Because we cannot wait anymore. It's been such a long time now.
I think we're going to have to wait. I don't think the current team is at that standard. Bayern Munich would destroy Manchester United right now. However, United beat City 3 times last season. United beat Chelsea twice away. So I don't think United are a huge way off. I just think it takes a few years of experience, of improving, of bringing better players in. And the benchmark is now Bayern Munich. And last season it was Liverpool. But United were within 5 minutes of beating Liverpool last season. United just need a stronger squad. It's alright raising your game against Liverpool. You need to do it a week later. And when you're in the Champions League, you're going to be playing 3 really tough games in 1 week. So to get back to that standard, pretty simple. World-class players. And either they come through like Mason Greenwood maybe come one, or Marcus Rashford, or they are bought in. And a world-class manager as well. Alex Ferguson was one. Will Ole Gunnar become one? I don't know. I'd love to think so. I like him. I trust his judgment. I don't know how good he'll be. You can't say that he's a world-class manager until he started winning world-class trophies. And started winning trophies. He needed a trophy this season at United. That would have definitely lifted the mood. For next season, I still don't think United will win the league. But there's got to be more progress. The gap's got to be smaller. They've got to start much better than last season. And people have been making judgments all the time. I think it'll be tough. I think it'll be a tough season. And yet I'm still optimistic throughout all that. Get one more real top-class player in this window. And then need a bit of luck with injuries and making sure that none of the players catch COVID. And don't spend too much time in Icelandic hotel rooms inviting people back. and get and you know, there's half a chance there. Well, it's been nice to talk to you all. Hope I've not bored you.
No, you haven't. You haven't. And
nice to feel the enthusiasm of everybody.
Yeah, so can you just give one small message to Red Army Kolkata, because that would mean so much to us, and because there are like more than 50 people from our team, we were jubilant when you said yes. Can you just one small message?
Yeah, hello to everyone at the Red Army Calcutta. I'll finally learn how to spell your name with a K and not a C. I've read a lot about and watched a lot of programs about your city. I have been to India, but I've never been there. I'd love to come in the future. I know United have got a really good support there. I think that's a great thing. And I know there's been the One United events there, which have been well supported. It'd be nice to have an amazing team to justify that support. But I think it'd be great to come to India, and I know United were going to come to Calcutta this year. It's a shame that's not been able to happen, but hopefully it will be able to happen soon, and we can come and see everybody. And I know your support's definitely appreciated.
Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope to see you again. Please take care. Have a great day. Have a great time ahead. And I will be waiting for. I like the way you're writing that, the 60 and the athletic. I've been reading that, and I would wait for the next edition. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Take care and look after yourself.
You too. Thank you.
All the best.